Hello everyone, let's talk about one of the most awaited movies of 2020 from Disney, Mulan. Ever since the first Mulan animation movie came out in 1998, it became one of the most popular Disney movies of all time. Accordingly, the unique story and the independent personalities of Mulan has quickly made the Chinese princess one of the most popular Disney princesses. As Disney adapted more and more of their animations into live-action films, they finally decided to make a Mulan movie too, which excited the audience from all over the world, especially those in China. The Chinese all have been waiting for it and have been looking forward to seeing how Disney will tell this one of the most famous Chinese classic stories. However, the movie really ruined everyone's high expectations, so today I'm going to give you 7 reasons why Mulan Disney live action failed. 1. Even before the movie was officially released in China, it only got a 4.7 out of 10 on the most popular Chinese movie rating website. People really dislike it just based on the trailers and the posters that Disney released. This negative result didn't seem to be changed after the Chinese audience watched it. Even though Disney spent a lot of effort to fit the Chinese market, the reason why Mulan failed in the Chinese market is due to the stereotype and misunderstanding of the traditional Chinese culture, makeup, costumes and sceneries, and characteristics which ultimately caused the movie to become nondescript. The movie Mulan is an adaptation of the original animation movie released in 1998. However, to have success in the Chinese market, Disney put a lot of effort into the film to fit the Chinese standards specifically. So here it comes to the second reason why Mulan failed. Second, they deleted Mushu, the little magical dragon, from the movie. In Chinese culture, the dragon is never a small thing, but instead always a great and extremely powerful creature. Furthermore, the movie version of Mulan has an overall very serious atmosphere, which creates strong contrast with the original animated film. Therefore, it would be strange to have Mushu, a funny element character, in the movie. They also deleted one of the most classic scenes, the kissing scene between Mulan and the general on the bridge. A male and female couldn't kiss each other publicly in the ancient traditional environment. So these 2 movie changes really showed that the production team spent a lot of time and effort to get the film as authentic as possible and make the story much closer to the original story. But why does it still lose the favor from the Chinese audience then? What really went wrong? So 3, I'm moving the makeups and costumes from the animation characters onto the real people. The movie portrayed a stereotypical understanding of the traditional Chinese appearance, specifically towards makeup, costumes, and sceneries. The whole movie kept the overall coloring of the original animation, which means both the makeup and the costumes of characters followed the color scheme of the original animated film. Disney wanted to keep the authenticity of the original film, but at the same time make the movie look real. Clearly, it didn't work out. So this makes the whole film look very unnatural and provides a sense of violation, and it caused the movie to look incredibly wrong and ugly for the Chinese audience. However, this is not the biggest problem for the makeups and costumes. What is most unacceptable is how the makeups and costumes violate the original story's historical background. Now, before the gathering, we see a scene of Mulan putting on makeup. The way she puts on her makeup and the overall makeup style is clearly a Tang Dynasty makeup, which is a huge mistake. Mulan is not a Tang Dynasty story, but a Northern Wei story. So how is it possible for the character to have the makeup from a completely different historical period? Therefore, the makeup violates the overall cultural style and violates the overall authenticity of the original story. The costume shares the same problem with the makeups. The color does not fit the overall style of the story. It's also a wrong interpretation of the historical background. Number 4. The building violates the historical period one more time. Mulan comes out from her living place and stands with her family, and this is a place where it really shocked the Chinese audience. While watching this gathering scene, many people ask the same question: why does it look so strange? And I also share the same feeling. The whole scene looks very strange. Doesn't look like an authentic ancient Chinese village at all, but rather a place in Chinatown. So this building structure is from another dynasty, the Song dynasty. The whole scene becomes a combination of Tang dynasty makeup and costumes with Song building and scenery under a Northern Wei dynasty historical period. So therefore, no wonder why the movie doesn't appeal to the Chinese audience. Coming up at number 5, we've got the fact the movie is also unable to fit the Chinese culture. So other than deleting elements from the animation movie, the movie also added many elements in the movie, and Qi, the inner power, is one of them. However, this element does not fit the story of Mulan. In the original story and the animation movie, the most important theme is how Mulan, as a female, has to overcome the physical disadvantage to compete with the male and eventually become a hero. While in the movie, because of the element Qi, the whole story changed this theme into a story of a kung fu girl who fights the powerful and magical witch with her Qi. Now, as mentioned here, the magical witch is another element they added. This character doesn't exist either in the original story or the animation film. So why did they add it? This change is not only unnecessary, but it brings the whole story onto the wrong track. How is it possible for a witch with the magical power to exist for a story that was based on a traditional Chinese cultural background? The magical witch wasn't the only character that doesn't make sense. Even Disney invited top-tier and most famous actors and actresses in China to act as the main characters. The sense of violation still can't be covered. Furthermore, due to the wrong cultural base of the movie, Disney emphasized the feminist characteristic of Mulan, but failed to bring out the authentic characteristics of her in the original story. When Disney tried to use this Chinese story to attract the Chinese market, what they forgot about is that Mulan is one of the most famous classical stories that almost all Chinese know. In the original story, Mulan went to the army for her father because of her duty to practice filial piety, but the movie only gives Mulan the image of a strong and independent woman who can be as good or even better than a man. The reason for this is relatively apparent. The movie is still using a Western way to tell a Chinese story. Disney wanted to focus on the feminist quality of Mulan. However, this was not the main idea of the original story. They wanted to keep the authenticity of the animation and at the same time make changes to the movie to fit the Chinese standards, but clearly they failed at both. Changing Mulan's main characteristic could work in the animation because everything was based on a virtual world so that people wouldn't consider it seriously. However, it wouldn't work in a live-action movie. The live-action movie is based on real people and sceneries. Thus, the whole movie created a severe environment and atmosphere. Therefore, the movie's worldview has to follow the original story to feel emotionally connected for the Chinese audience. Otherwise, the audience would not be attracted by it and could even be offended by it. In the original story, or in other words, from the Chinese people's perspective, even though Mulan went to the army for her father, she is still a delicate, elegant, feminine woman. Number 6. The movie forced the Western perspective. It also forced the value of strong, independent, and feminist characteristics onto Mulan, which is a complete contradiction to the Chinese perspective and standards. Therefore, Mulan would undoubtedly lose the favor of the Chinese audience and market. 7. Instead of warring against the Huns, she takes the villainous role alongside a mystical witch. The main plotline remains the same as Mulan disguises herself as a man to join the imperial army in her father's place and saves the emperor. The new narrative, while initially intriguing, left out crowd favorites from the animated version, such as Li Shang and Mushu, replacing them with two-dimensional characters. Still, the development of Xingning is perhaps the most disappointing aspect of the remake, given her potential for expansion. Her established motives in the movie are relatively shallow and flawed. Khan outrightly treats her not as his equal, but as a dangerous pawn. Her continued support for his coup d'etat showcases a measure of short-sightedness that is at odds with the power she possesses. Such shaky characterization detracts from the complexity of a character whose origin story could have nearly been a movie of its own. And this lack of deeper context also hinders the connection that the movie tries to draw between the two as outsiders who are trying to find acceptance in their society. Yet Mulan offers much more substance behind her actions. Here are a few recommendations of live movie action from Disney: Lion King, Cruella, Aladdin, Maleficent, Lady and the Tramp, The Jungle Book, Dumbo, 2019 Beauty and the Beast. And that's it for today. Share and subscribe for more. Leave a comment below with which one you favored and which one of the Disney movies you would like to see as a live-action movie next from Disney. I'll see you next time.